What if the biggest mistake in modern science, the 1988 radiocarbon dating that declared the Shroud of Turin a medieval forgery, was actually evidence of the resurrection itself? I'm Dallas James, principal researcher at Heart's Two Fathers Publishing, and over the past 3 days I conducted 10 independent SHIELD Protocol 14.0 draws, 750 total verses drawn from the Urim Thummim version corpus of 34,211 verses, all asking variations of the same question. What kind of body will covenant children have in the resurrection of the dead? What I'm about to share with you is the convergence of those 10 draws with the latest scientific evidence from the Shroud of Turin. And the answer that emerged, from both the text and the physics, is stunning. Let me start with the Shroud. In 2022 through 2024, Dr. Liberato De Caro and his team at Italy's Institute of Crystallography used a technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering, WAXS, to measure the structural degradation of the cellulose fibers in the Shroud's linen. Their finding? The Shroud's degradation profile is fully compatible with a first-century Israeli linen sample recovered from the fortress of Masada, dated securely to 55 to 74 AD. The Shroud is approximately 2,000 years old. The 1988 carbon dating was fatally flawed. But why was it flawed? This is where the physics becomes theology. Dr. Paolo Di Lazzaro at the YHWH Research Center in Italy used excimer lasers to successfully replicate the Shroud's unique image characteristics: the yellow coloration, the exact 200 nanometer penetration depth, and the lack of fluorescence. But when you scale those laser parameters to a full human body, the energy requirement is staggering: 6 to 8 billion watts of vacuum ultraviolet radiation, lasting less than 1/40 billionth of a second. No known physics can explain how a dead human body could emit such radiation. Here is the connection. If that burst of radiation occurred, it would have released a massive flux of thermal neutrons. Those neutrons, striking the nitrogen atoms in the linen, would have converted stable nitrogen, 14, into radioactive carbon, 14, through a well-documented nuclear reaction. That artificial enrichment of carbon, 14, would make the cloth appear centuries younger than its true age, which is exactly what the 1988 test showed. The radiocarbon error is not disproof of the Shroud. It is the physical fingerprint of the resurrection event. Now pause and let that settle. The very piece of evidence that was held up for decades as proof the Shroud was a fake, that radiocarbon date, turns out to be what you would expect if a resurrection actually happened. The neutrons did exactly what nuclear physics predicts they would do. The science did not fail. The science recorded the event. And then in 2025, Dr. John Sottosanti, an oral surgeon with 40 years of anatomical expertise, discovered something no one had noticed before. Using enhanced photographs from the 1978 STIRP negatives, he identified the lower teeth visible through the closed lips on the Shroud's image. The mandibular incisal plane, the biting edges of the lower teeth, are imprinted on the cloth, even though the lips are clearly closed. Only the lower teeth appear. The upper teeth are blocked by the denser tissue of the mustache. This eliminates pareidolia. It means the energy burst functioned like a dental X-ray. The body became temporarily transparent to its own radiant emissions. Now, what do the scriptures say? In Draw 3, the most statistically powerful draw of the entire series, the lead verse describes the crafting of a sacred vessel with 4 rings of gold on its 4 corners, structural stability, divine architecture, prepared for transport. And then the direct textual hit arrives. Then they entered in and did not find the body of YHWH Joshua. The empty tomb. The Fisher chi-squared for that draw was 109.77. The probability of that occurring by chance is less than 1 in 13 trillion. The convergence confidence index hit 88% with all 6 analytical channels active. SELAH-CONFIRMED. The text is defining the resurrection body as a temple body, a vessel deliberately prepared by divine instruction, stabilized against biological entropy, and fitted to house and project the immense radiant energy of the Father's glory without being consumed. Draw 5 confirms it. Joshua himself says, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." Believers are transformed into the same image, from glory into sacred glory by the Spirit. 3 direct textual hits land. Threshold crossed. The nature of glorification is the Father's own glory clothing the raised temple body. Draw 9 links resurrection directly to radiant light. The text says his brightness was as the light. He had rays of light coming out of his hand, and this is set right beside children of the resurrection. The scriptures are not using light as a metaphor for moral purity. They are describing the literal physical medium of transformation, the same 6 to 8 billion watts that scorched the 200 nanometer surface of the shroud. And draw 10, the final draw, asks for the mathematics of resurrection. The lead verse names Joshua directly, the pre-registered keyword landing on the very first verse drawn. The second verse drawn describes a figure whose visage is blacker than coal, whose skin cleaves to their bones, a textual photograph of the shroud's negative image. Then the creator is presented as the original mathematician, who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand and measured out the cosmos with the span. And the burning bush appears, fire that does not consume, which is exactly the shroud's paradox. Light was present. The cloth was not destroyed. The image exists in the topmost fibrils of the threads, and not one fiber deeper. That is precision. That is the hand of the one who weighed the mountains in scales. Across all 10 draws, the dominion triad, identity, inheritance, and priesthood, fired at sigma levels ranging from 3.22 to 5.33. 7 of 10 draws registered extreme anomaly for achieved SELAH confirmation. The combined metasignal far exceeds any reasonable threshold for random noise. Here is the synthesis. 12 discoveries emerge from this convergence, and I want to give you the 4 most important. First, the resurrection body is a temple body, not an immaterial ghost, not an ethereal phantom, but a perfected physical vessel stabilized by divine architecture to safely house and radiate the Father's glory without suffering vaporization or entropy. The shroud proves this. A body emitted billions of watts of energy, and the cloth survived. The 4 rings of gold on the 4 corners, stability, readiness, divine craftsmanship. That is the resurrection body. Second, the spiritual body is covenant-shaped, not substance-defined. Draw its 2 direct textual hits join dead body to Passover observance and 1 body to the stake. The word spiritual does not mean non-physical. It means covenant reconciled, Passover kept, stake formed. The shroud's physical linen bearing a real imprint confirms this. Spirit and matter are not enemies. They are united in the risen body. Third, personal identity is absolutely continuous. The destroyed return and stay themselves. The shroud preserves specific wounds, specific facial features, specific dental anatomy. You are not erased in the resurrection. Your body is your body, transformed but specifically yours, the same tent, now in peace. Draw 4's lead verse declares it plainly. You will visit your habitation and will not go wrong. Fourth, light is the literal medium of resurrection, not a metaphor for purity, not a symbol for hope. The actual, physical medium through which the transformation occurs. 6 to 8 billion watts of vacuum ultraviolet radiation, the light that scorched 200 nanometers deep into the linen fibers, is the same light the scriptures describe when they say his brightness was as the light and rays of light coming out of his hand. The children of the resurrection are the children of light because light is how the Father raises the dead. The shroud bears witness in matter. The 10 draws bear witness in text. The burning bush radiates and is not consumed. The tomb is empty. The body is raised. The cloth remains. The text leads. The numbers confirm. The signal is not random. Selah.